Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Adoptions from the Heart TV. I'm your host, Amanda Aliberti. Today, I would like to welcome Stephanie Capriotti, District Supervisor for our Central PA office. So welcome, Stephanie.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So we wanted to chat with you guys about disruptions. Oftentimes, when we talk about disruptions, we just think about the clients who are affected, but usually, extended family is somewhat aware that these things are going on, and we wanted Stephanie's opinion on how to handle that. So, Stephanie, what would you do to prepare your clients when they are matched for a situation in preparation for potential disruption happening, and what they can do to deal with the people in their life, their support people?
Yeah, I think you have to have a plan just in the beginning. So you have to have a plan of, I always recommend a point person. So when you're matched, I would assign a point person just to be able to give them all the information, and then they can filter out to whoever you would like that information to go to. And then you can just only be telling one person. So you're not retelling the story over and over and over again, which can be really, really traumatic for you as an adoptive parent. And so I would definitely have you have that person who you're very comfortable with. It doesn't have to be a family member. It can be a best friend, but it can also be a family member too. It's just someone that you are very close to and that you have a really good relationship and comfort level with, and then they can go ahead and filter that information out. So I would always have a plan in place along those lines. The other thing I always recommend is that you should explain the situation like you would to a child who's already in the home, and use correct terminology in the sense that, we're taking care of this baby while birth mom Sally and birth father George make their decision. And so that always helps with setting up expectations for all of your extended family members, that, this is not a done deal just because the child has been placed with you in your home.
So for families, whether they're matched like ahead of time before baby's born or for an emergency placement, what is your advice on who do I tell? Because people sometimes don't think about that part because they're excited. You're getting the call, you're in the moment, and you want to tell everybody, right? Like, who do you think you should tell that you got the call for a match?
Yeah, I think it's on a need-to-know basis. I think those people who are closest to you and who know you best need to know. Your employers need to know. You don't have to tell the world, and you can keep some things close to the vest. I think, too, in an emergency situation as well, that's easier to do than it is if you've been matched prior. But still, I would keep it to a minimum amount of people, because if something doesn't go the way that we have planned, then again, there's all those less people that you have to tell.
And just remembering that there's different hurdles in the process, and you want to just be patient with going through that, right? Because if you just think, okay, I got the call, we're going to become parents tomorrow, that's not necessarily how it works, right?
Right. We have milestones, which we, refer to in adoption, is that there's going to be a placement. And then we have termination of the birth parent's parental rights. And then we have finalization. And there's time in between. And every state that we work in has very different laws and rules. And that's something, too, you can talk to with your extended family beforehand, is how do all these laws work? What are the termination periods for each different state, and how do they work? And so those are things that I think conversations you could have previously with your extended family members. It's also good because then they feel empowered because they have information now. And that's always helpful for them to help process information too, as they knew that information prior to you being placed.
Right. And so when you're in the middle of completing your educational classes, you want to make sure you take that information and relay it to your support people, because you have to remember, you're becoming trained and educated on this process, but they're not. So you have to kind of keep them afloat to what's happening so that they can be prepared. So let's say that you do get the call, you've been placed with a child, and then unfortunately a disruption occurs. What advice would you have to folks who have to now go back and tell their family members? How do you approach it? What do you say? How do you deal with their emotions and their questions about, well, what do you mean we thought this was your baby? How can you respond to that?
Yeah, I think you have to be in a place where you're able to have those conversations first. So I always say take care of you first, because you can't help them if you're in the middle of your feelings too. And so that's why it's really good to have that point person to be able to notify them that, we're kind of just in the beginning of this, and we just want to, just good support is what we need right now, and love, and we're more than happy to have conversations when we're ready. So your point person can be the one having those conversations. And then I think it's important to just go back and explain that these things happen, and they're not, that we call them disruptions because they're disruptive. And acknowledge that your extended family have emotions about this and have feelings. They have probably spent some time with you and this baby. And so it's important to allow them to have their emotions too. And it's okay to call your social worker and say, hey, I'm really struggling with how to talk to my family. Is it okay if we call and we have a conference call of us together? Because maybe I can't explain it right now. I'm not in that place. Yeah. And that's okay. Access the agency. That's what we're here for. Yeah. But I think it's okay to validate you're sad about this and that they're sad about this. But also remind yourself and them that you're in this to become parents. Mm-hmm. And so you're not going to have another person's decision challenge your decision to be parents.
I like that. What about when your family members start feeling angry towards the birth parent who changed their mind? Because I think that's a very common response that we find is your immediate reaction when you see your loved one who was not able to move forward, feeling sad, you resort to birth parent. Why did they change their mind? And all the reasons why you feel it shouldn't have gone that way. What is your response to that?
Yeah, I think you have to go back to your educational classes and really pull out the things that we learned in the educational classes, that, there are time frames in the states we work with. These are huge decisions, and it wasn't a personal attack upon you or your family. It's just a decision that they had to make for them and for this child. And so you just have to remind them that this is not a personal attack, and that it's okay to feel angry. It's okay. Mm-hmm. It didn't go the way you planned. There's always anger associated with that. Mm-hmm. So I think you validate their feelings, validate your own feelings too, and then just explain that, they made this decision and that you're really okay with where this baby is now, and that they're with their birth family, and that is okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And remembering that everything happens for a reason. Right? I know that can be easier said than done sometimes, but it holds true that if your loved one does experience a disruption, that just means that was not meant to be, and their forever child is out there, and you need to continue to support them in reaching that goal and that place.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Wonderful. Well, thank you. We appreciate you sharing those lovely words of wisdom. Hopefully this is helpful for folks if you want to take this and maybe share it with your loved ones if you're starting to prepare for a possible placement, because it's important that you have the support and resources around you, because disruptions can be really hard. So thank you again for joining us, Stephanie. Continue to tune in to future episodes here at Adoptions from the Heart TV.